Live. How we doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and while the New York Mets did secure a victory today, many takeaways from today's game come off not so victorious. This was a Mets ball game that the Mets absolutely should have decimated and slaughtered the Braves, just like as the Mets were slaughtered on the grill. How fitting on 4th of July this past Saturday that we just saw 24 hours ago. That's why I'm cooked, because I was enjoying the nice beach and getting absolutely destroyed by the sun instead of watching the New York Mets get absolutely destroyed by the Atlanta Braves yesterday. In today's breakdown, we're going to get into the Mets' 10-9 victory over the Atlanta Braves, what was the good, including guys like A.J. Ewing and many aspects of this Mets offense, and the bad that most certainly had everything to do with Huascar Brosban finally having a bad outing this season. We're also going to get into not only the key takeaways and breakdown from the Mets salvaging their series in Atlanta against the Braves in a very fitting fashion, as we saw there was a rain delay, because why wouldn't there be a rain delay for the New York Mets in Atlanta? Some things are just always going to happen. We're going to get into that, as well as obviously what is happening with the Mets and the managerial position, as we have key reporting that dropped earlier today, giving us an inside look as to who is maybe the leading candidate for the New York Mets for their managerial position for 2027. It ain't gonna be Andy Green, as he's moving back to player development, so we have a big discussion to get into regarding guys like, yes, Carlos Beltran. Hit that like and subscribe on your way, and everybody, I want to know your thoughts, initial reactions into what was certainly an ugly win for the New York Mets in this one that we're going to deep dive. Hit that like and subscribe on. Help us get a 40K subs for an extra drum goal. Shout out to Noah McLean, who had himself a more than fine outing in Atlanta against these red-hot Braves today, shutting the door down on them. And unless your name was Huascar Brosban, you were pretty much getting the job done for the New York Mets in the pitching department. We're going to break down the Mets and their entire pitching breakdown today, where Brosban went wrong, where McLean went right, and where Raley and Weaver continue to be as advertised. On the heading end, we're going to get into the New York Mets out-hitting the Atlanta Braves in this one in runs, but not in hits itself. The Mets had 10 runs to the Atlanta Braves 9, but they were tied 12-12 apiece when looking at their hitting. The Mets' hours costly as a surprise to absolutely no one, as we saw literally 3 hours in this matchup. Another day where poor fundamental play by this New York Mets team. We're not going to talk much on MLB draft today, but we will as we get closer. That's not a problem for you guys. I know the draft's right around the corner. Just there hasn't been much positives in Mets land to get into. Maybe we will have a positive to get into, which is obviously the draft right around the corner. When we talk about the Mets when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position, big takeaway. Because listen, the Atlanta Braves were dogs late in this game thanks to their big grand salami off of Brazo, sadly. They went 5 for 10 with runners in scoring position and batted right around 500. When it comes to the New York Mets, they were thankfully even better, as the Mets today, with runners in scoring position, were a whopping 5 for 7 and left just 4 on base. If only they could do this on an every night basis. Instead, we get it on average, what? Once a week at most as Mets fans. That's why everything is few and far in between when being celebratory breaking down this Metropolitan club. Malvar, thank you for the donation. It was a very 2026 Mets W. I'll take it, though. Absolutely appreciate the donation. Shout out to our new member chiming in the live chat earlier. I greatly appreciate you being in here. Shout out to everyone watching live or replay as you smash a like and subscribe on, everybody. Because, folks, before we break down this ball game, before we get into our amazing sponsors, and before we get into all the key details from today's matchup, this series as a whole, Carlos Beltran, the latest reporting regarding the New York Mets. Let's, of course, let it rip as we always do. After every big victory throughout the course of the 162, regardless on if it's wins or losses. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's only regarding wins, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Dom, thank you so much for the donation. David says if Dom Smith had won the game, you and I would have lost our minds. I think regardless, I've lost my mind talking about the Mets this year. But Dave, nonetheless, let's let it rip as we always do. What they won, the only, the Metropolitan, yeah, you guessed it, dust it off, baby, post-game jingle. Let's go, baby. It's been a hot minute. Let's do it.
Postgame. Postgame. Calling all Nick fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it down. It's
No need to use the lobsters today. For those that don't know that inside joke, it's a little lobster we would dance around with throughout victories, going back to when I was at the beach last year. We don't need a lobster because I am your lobster, if you guys can't tell by how effing red I was. The person I was with over this past weekend, too, they were even redder than I was. I thought I was bad. I looked at them, and they looked like a crayon. I said, you know what? I don't look as bad as I thought I did. The tan's going to set in soon. You guys will see it. I'll be in studio for the New York Post Tuesday in Manhattan, so hopefully everything looks good under the bright lights there. But nonetheless, everybody, you know the drill. We did the dancey dance, so now it's time to hear from the amazing prize picks that has you covered, everybody. Because listen, the New York Mets suck this year. They're absolutely abhorrent. They're horrendous. But Prize Picks has been continuing to step up, just like we have, showing up every single day. So guys and gals, download the Prize Picks app because they're officially live in the state of New York. Do a World Cup related play, whether you want to do Holland and Mbappe like I did not long ago. Holland had 2 goals for Norway today. And their elimination game, besting Team Brazil and Neymar to get to the quarterfinals in this year's FIFA World Cup. Very exciting news for those Norwegian fans. Shout out to Matt Zuccarello, Rangers legend, if you know, you know, who just signed with the Canes, a Norwegian as well. Whether you guys want to do World Cup related plays, MLB related plays, or anything in the space when looking at the best app in the game for daily projections and labs, look no further. Join the millions of users today. Download the PrizePicks app, link down below, and use our promo code HMA to get $50 in labs after you place your first $5 lineup. Again, that's promo code HMA to get $50 in labs after you place your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And also shout out to SeatGeek, everybody, the official marketplace for the New York Mets. Whether you want it for Mets tickets, even though I don't blame you if you don't want to go there right now, MLB tickets in general, maybe you want to go to a big UFC card next weekend as Conor McGregor makes his long-awaited, highly anticipated return to the octagon for the first time in 5 years, rematching the great Max Holloway next weekend. Whatever you guys want, the ticketing space, entertainment, comedies, concerts, you name it, use the promo code WARDY10, link down below after downloading the SeatGeek app today. That is WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Now, guys and gals, you know the drill. Let's let it rip. Let's break down this ball game today. And again, this was an eventful ball game when we talk offense for both sides here. But let's begin today regarding the New York Mets, who obviously, as we saw, were able to get up early and often when it came to the offense in this one, okay? In the first inning, after that rain delay, we would go on to see the Mets take an early 1-0 lead. You know, they're facing the soft tosser and Mr. Martin Perez. We had Cookie Carrasco come in late in this ball game for the Atlanta Braves. And guys, let's call it how it is. The Mets beat up on some really shit pitching today. That's really the big takeaway in this one, okay? It's nice to see them beat up on a Martin Perez who had good numbers entering the start. But guys, Martin Perez is not good. Let's not sit here and act like he is, okay? He's a soft-tossing southpaw, kind of that Jose Quintana echelon of a starter, but one that as long as you can hit for quality, you should be able to hit him plenty. And the Mets were able to do that today with a lot of their batters, including Lindor, obviously batting from the right side, obviously, and the righty-lefty matchup. Lindor initially reached on a fielding error initially by Austin Riley. Then we saw Juan Soto get on with a single. We would then see Soto out, trying to leg that single into a double. But Lindor would be safe at third base, and that would hold true, because Bo Bichette then does what he has done plenty for the New York Mets lately, and that's driving in runs, an RBI single. Right away for Bo makes it a 1-0 Mets lead. Mark Vientos, who initially had the start at first base today, because who thought that was a good idea? I guess Andy Green did, even though we should be doing something else, even with these matchups going on. Vientos walks, nothing else happens, but the Mets are up 1 in the first half of the inning. We see Drake Baldwin get on with a hit by pitch a half inning later. Ozzie Albies with his 17th double of the year makes it quickly it makes it a runner in scoring position circumstance here for the Atlanta Braves. Then after Matt Olson would line out, we would see Michael Harris II get on with an RBI knock that drives in a pair, not just one but two, because we would see McLean also with a brutal error as well of the pickoff attempt, and then it goes from 2-1 to 3-1. So Noah McLean with an inning from hell in Atlanta continues as Mauricio Dubon makes it a 3-1 lead, and would stop there, and that, thankfully, that would stop the bleeding for Noah McLean and the New York Mets. The worst inning, I should say, for Noah McLean in Atlanta, thankfully today, just so happened to be the first inning that he played today. Give me 1 second, everybody. Just getting this all focused. Okay. As we continue on, top of the second, AJ Ewing, we saw smack his 5th home run of the year. That was an absolutely decimated baseball, which we love to see. 104 off the bat. Mind you, lefty-lefty matchups. You know all the lefty-lefty nonsense that we had to deal with this year, including, of course, Carlos Mendoza saying, oh, we can't play AJ today because we got a lefty in. Yeah, miss me with that nonsense, miss me with that bull, okay? When you take a sinker inside 89, see ya, 104 off the bat, 408 feet, you're clearly doing something right. And AJ Ewing now, if I'm not mistaken, has 5 home runs this year. At least 2 of them are now against lefties. I believe his last 2 home runs are against lefties. He had a lefty-lefty matchup home run, I think his last bomb, and now he hits his 5th home run of the year to put the Mets within 1, I should say. Terenza gets on with a walk. Beatty rips his 12th double of the year because even though Brett the Hitman has been far from eventful with his bat this year, in Atlanta, he definitely has known how to hit over his career. I've noticed that. It's definitely benefited him in that park in Truist. Then Francisco Lindor says, let's tie the ball game, baby. Lindor batting from the right side again. He ties it with an RBI knock. That makes it 3-3. And Juan Soto says, time for the lead, everybody. Soto drives in a pair there with an RBI single himself of 2 runs, I should say. The Mets are now up 5-3, and that'll do it for the inning because Mark Vientos would ground into an inning-ending double play. And the bottom of the second, we would see a lot of workaround for Mr. Yes, Noel McLean. He will work around a 1-out walk from Mike Yastrzemski, former longtime San Francisco Giant. And then Drake Baldwin gets on with a 2-out knock. So runners on, 2 outs for Atlanta, and Ozzie Albies thankfully grounds out to end the inning. And the third, the Mets go down 1-2-3 as the Braves go down 1-2-3. And the fourth, the Mets and the Braves do it again. They both go down 1-2-3. The fifth inning, both of them go down with the exception of Jim Jarvis getting on because of another typical Mark Vientos error. In case you guys and gals didn't see, Mark Vientos started at first base today, which meant that an error was inevitably happening. Vientos bobbled the ball terribly at first base, could not make the play, and he was one of the multiple errors for the New York Mets today. Thankfully, it didn't cost them there, at least in that moment. As we continue on, we see in the top of the sixth, everybody, Ben strikes out. Tyrone, who got playing time today, he would be called out on strikes. AJ Ewing with a 2-out knock because he says, listen, I got to step up because no one else is, clearly. And the Mets do nothing as Torrens would ground out. We head to the bottom of the sixth inning where another scoreless inning. That will be the final inning of work for Noel McLean today. Noel McLean's final line, everybody, is as follows. 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeout. We'll break down McLean more on his arsenal here in a minute, but a quick summary for you guys, how I would give him his final line grade on a scale of 1 to 10. We are going to a final line grade for Noel McLean today, allowing just 2 earned runs across 6 innings. Yeah, it goes without saying, we're going to go with a very easy and a very comfortable, we're going to give Nolan a nice 7.5 out of 10 today. That's a good grade for Nolan. I think he deserves it. You guys let me know in the live chat in the comments down below if you guys feel the same or differently about Noel McLean's final line grade on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going 7.5. Like I said, you guys let me know how you're feeling about that. And I understand yesterday's loss was an absolute slaughtering. But on 4th of July night, as transparently, I'm enjoying myself with fam and loved ones and most certainly not worried about the Mets. It was nice to take the day off yesterday, regardless of the fact that I know some of you guys probably wanted me here. So I apologize for not being here yesterday, but I appreciate your patience. And just know those things will happen from time to time. I cover the team every single day for a living. So when you have an excuse to step away for at least 24 hours or at least not be present in the moment when they get slaughtered, especially on a nice holiday Saturday, you're going to go out your way to do that. I think that's what you should do. Thankfully, Melez, this doesn't really hurt all that much. I did have sunblock on. It just didn't cover everything fully. And again, being out in the UV, these Italian jeans, I'm going to get a nice tan, but the red is kicking in first. And my lighting is not doing it any justice right now either. So it is what it is. Nick the Met Fanatic, I like the pitching, but can't stand the stash. I love the stash. I rock with the Nolan stash quite a bit, actually. It's an old school look that I'm definitely for. Michael, $33 holla. Thank you so much, Michael. Love you to death. Great memory. Says Mets win. That equals $10. 10 runs scored equals $20. 3 runs scored yesterday equals $3. Season contributions $518. My wife and I love your work, and I love you and your wife, Michael. Thank you so much for your continued generosity. Seriously, please don't leave us. As bad as Mets have been at times, I know it's frustrating. Oh, of course it's frustrating. I ain't going anywhere. Listen, the Mets might not show up, but this is my job, and I clearly care about my job for a living more than the Mets do when it comes to getting paid millions of dollars to hit a baseball, and you go weeks on end not being able to comprehend doing such a thing. I appreciate the donation. I appreciate you and your wife's support immensely. Thank you so much for that, and I hope you guys had yourself a great weekend thus far. As we continue on, let's talk about this Mets game, because they still won it, believe it or not, as we have the 7th inning, everybody, after after Mr. Danny Young, for his second outing in this series, shuts the door down the New York Mets, because of course the soft-tossing southpaw Danny Young is the Mets daddy in this one. Why wouldn't he be? The same way that we have that schmuck, what's his face? I'm already forgetting his name, from the Washington Nationals. I was screaming and kicking that we need to get out of this bullpen earlier in this year because Carlos Mendoza put him in, tight ball game situations early. Why am I blanking so bad? You got, Dickie Lovelady. Remember when the Mets matched up with Dickie Lovelady and he absolutely kicked our teeth in earlier this year after we cut him? Of course you remember that. Trenton, $2. Wardy, keep your head up, bro. We love the content. I love you back, Trenton. Thank you for the kind words. Happy to have you. I'm trying to keep it up. I am. Pause. I'm trying to do it, though, everybody, especially while the Mets most certainly can. All right, camera is locked. All right. 7th inning, Mets do nothing. Bottom of the 7th, the Braves are trying to do something, but it's a nice scroll inning for Brooks Raley, who works around a no-out single for Austin Riley, who was the first batter that McLean saw in the sixth, and that ended Nolan's day. We head to the eighth inning after Brooks Raley does his thing, and the Mets beat up on former friend, now foe, and Mr. Cookie Carrasco. Love the wordplay there. Bo Bichette gets on with a leadoff knock. Afterwards, Jared Young comes in to pinch hit for Mark Vientos. He would help the Mets later on. And then Carson Wentz would grind into a double play, but what the Mets do an inning later would be notable here. We would see the Braves do nothing against Luke Weaver, as Luke Weavedog, if I'm not mistaken. Weaver is now at 26 consecutive outings without allowing a run? Absolute madman. He has not allowed a single run since May 1st, if my memory serves me correct. Top of the ninth. Meatballs thrown by Cookie are going to get eaten up, especially by someone who loves meatballs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I present to you Tyrone Taylor, who smacks his 5th home run of the year. A multi-run shot gives the Mets a 6-3 lead. I apologize. That's not a multi-run shot. That's a solo shot. What am I yapping about here? A.J. Ewing then would strike out, but after 2 outs, Brett Beatty gets on with a single. Lindor works a nice walk. Soto works a walk because he's going to. And Bo Bichette says, let's open the floodgates. And oh my God, did the Mets need it? Because Bo Bichette goes in the gap. It's his 14th double of the year. It drives in a pair. It's 8-3 with the Mets lead. And then Jared Young, who's in late in this ball game for Mark Vientos, but is doing more than Mark did throughout this entire one. Let's get into Jared Young driving in another pair, this time with a nice 2-run single. Mets take a 10-3 lead. Emphasis, a 7-run lead entering the 9th inning. Surely the New York Mets can't blow this. They didn't blow it, but they had you shaking your effing boots until the very end. Why? Because Oscar Brosman decides on today, July 5th, 2026, to give up the same amount of runs in one outing that he essentially has given up all season long. And that really is not much of an exaggeration. Today, we would see Dubon, Dom, back-to-back singles. A terrible error by Brazo then makes it 10-4. Riley, a single. White, a walk. Mateo, a strikeout. Baldwin, a grandmother effing salami. A salami in the 9th inning for Atlanta. It's a sinker not even poorly placed. It's bottom zone. It was just cooked off the bat by Mr. Baldwin because you know the Atlanta Braves and churning out great catching. They do it every year like it's nobody's business. It's a 2-run deficit for Atlanta that becomes a 1-run deficit because after you get the big strikeout on Ozzie Albies, as Brazo's out, Devin Williams comes in. Matt Olson smokes his 23rd double of the year. Kill the Mets this series with multiple home runs, obviously. A wild pitch gets Olson a third. Michael Harris drives him in now with an RBI knock. The Mets are only up by 1. Mauricio Dubon gets on with a single. The game-tying run is on base, and the Braves have a chance to walk it off. Dom Smith, the man who's been clutch, not clutch today. Strikes his ass out swinging is Devin Williams. Devin flexes the big guns. Big save for Devin. Nice win for the New York Mets. Not a sexy win, not a pretty win. Brosman almost completely wasted it, but nonetheless, it still happened, and we'll take that for what it is. Michael, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. I greatly appreciate that. You get a membership. You get a membership. You get a membership. And you get a membership. From Rebecca to Trenton to Master to Ruggs to Joey NYM. Congratulations. You guys are all members of the platform now. Courtesy of Michael gifting you guys. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Really, really do. I would love to hear from you guys, to our members, to our live viewers, and people watching replay. What is your biggest takeaway from what was another godforsaken series for the New York Mets? Listen, the Mets won. You happy about that? But they're 37-53 on the season. We're waiting for the selling spree to ensue beyond David Peterson, who gave up 10 mother effing earned runs this weekend. So it looks like the Mets actually may have already won that deal for a top 15 prospect in the organization. We'll take that for what it is. Nonetheless, I want to know exactly how you're feeling, your biggest takeaways from the series, everybody. While you do that, we're going to hop into the pitching, and then we're going to talk Carlos Beltran and call it a day, everybody. Okay, so let's talk pitching and let's talk Mr. Noel McLean. McLean, four-seam fastball, 26% of the time he threw, sat 96 on it, right around 2,200 on the spin rate. Curveball, 20% of the time, 24% of the time for McLean today, sat right around 83, also right around 3,400 the spin rate. Sinker, 22% of the arsenal, right around 95 and also 2,200 in the spin rate. Also kind of crazy that his RPMs are as high as they were on the curveball day. 34 to 3,500 is nasty work in a good way. Sweeper, 14% of the time for Nolan. Sat 86 on the velo, is right around 2,900 to 2,200, 2,900 to 3,000 rather on the spin rate. Cutter, 8% of his arsenal, was sitting right around 93. It's also right around 2,500 on the spin rate. Changeup, 6% of the arsenal, 88 miles per hour, sat right around 1,000. Again, I went 7.5 out of 10 for Noel McLean for my final line grade. I'd love to hear you guys. Collective pitching today. If we go from McLean to Raley to Weaver to Brazo, because you got Brazo only got 1 out and allowed 5 mother effing runs. Mets allowed 9 runs today. So unfortunately, there's an asterisk with this, but I'll probably give the Mets total pitching staff today a 5 out of 10 because the pitching really wasn't a problem except for one single pitcher today. And the Mets used 6 pitchers today. So I don't want them all to be at fault. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't do math. 5 pitchers the Mets used today. Okay, not a mathematician, just a schmuck with a mic yapping each and every one of you. I'm going to go 5 out of 10 for collective pitching, but for McLean, we're going to go 7.5 out of 10. And Michael, thank you so much. We got another gifted, this time to Sab. Sab, congratulations on becoming a member, my friend. Thank you so much to everyone with the gifteds. You're very kind, very generous, and I appreciate you all greatly. I really do. On the heading end, everybody, and sell the team. We're not there yet, but it ain't going to happen whether you like it or not. Steve ain't going anywhere. That's the one thing I can tell you in great certainty right now. Let's see, everybody. Let's see this. Let's talk offense. Talking offense, Francisco Lindor, 1 for 4 with 3 runs scored. The RBI, 225 average of 690 OPS. Juan Soto, 2 for 4 with a run scored and 2 RBIs. 299 average, 966 OPS. Bo Bichette, great day for both. 3 hits, a double, 3 RBIs, 258 with a 689. Vientos, 0 for 211 with a 641. Jared Young, 1 for 2, 2 RBIs, 223 average, 696. Benj, 0 for 5. I don't like Benj out of the leadoff spot. Can we stop with this bullshit, okay? Andy Green, don't hate you, Andy, but you're not making me love you, okay? It wasn't broke with Carson Benj at the top of the lineup. I get Lindor's back, and I get Lindor might be able to give you more of an oomph, but consistently, Benj will be your best option as a plate setter at the top of the lineup. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Everything about this team is broken. We don't need to be that anal with the creativity. Some things have been working. I think when it comes to this in particular, Benj, put him back in leadoff, keep Lindor in the top 3, and go on from there, okay? I don't think this should be rocket science, yet here we are. Why am I even complaining about lineups at this point in the season already? But you guys know me. I'm still going to yap about it if I have an opinion. And that's what it is. Carson Benj, Ofer, love him though. 255 average, 704 OPS. 1 for 4 with the bomb is Tyrone Taylor, 207 with 613. AJ Ewing, multi a game for AJ. Pair of strikeouts, but an RBI, 265 with a 756. Terren's 0 for 3 with a run scored, 213 with a 589. And Brett Beatty, 2 for 4 with a run scored, a double, 218 with a 605, everybody. That's what we got there in the Mets offense. The Mets had 12 hits, just as much as the Atlanta Braves, but did much better with runners to scoring position, as we mentioned, going 5 for 7 or so. Really, really good. The Braves, I think, won 5 for 10 today for context. Now, last but not least, everybody, before we get out of here, like I said, I'm not going to be too long-winded on this one. Freddie Peralta and Ronaldo Lopez tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Thank you for the info, G-Money. I appreciate that. But guys and gals, this is what you need to know, okay? This is the big takeaway, the big news rumbling that we saw today, courtesy of a friend of mine on the platform who will probably be back on the platform prior to the trade deadline. We did a trade deadline preview with him here last year. Not Will Salmon. We will definitely bring on for a separate discussion. But last year we had the so entertaining, whether you love him or hate him, Bob Nightingale of USA Today came on the platform. And this is what we got. Oh, and yes, it's a 4-game series. That makes sense, everybody. I think when I say salvage series, I don't expect the Mets to win tomorrow. That's part of the reason as well. If the Mets win tomorrow, great, but I'm not banking or betting on that as a certainty at all. Nonetheless, let's talk Carlos Beltran, next Mets manager. Why? This is why, everybody. As you guys and gals can see, according to Bob Nightingale, Carlos Beltran is considered the favorite for the Mets managerial vacancy. Now, let's get a couple things immediately out of the way. Is Bob citing this as someone who is informed and is connecting the industry? Absolutely he is. Is Bob also stating this because it's almost kind of like a foregone conclusion that Carlos Beltran looks like the early favorite? I would say that's true, okay? Beltran has been viewed by many as a favorite managerial option for the New York Mets, that they literally just find themselves in a position to actually finally hire him. And now they may actually do that now as we head into 2027. For the rant will be epic. Oh, yeah, the rant will be tomorrow, I'm sure, Nick. You know how it goes there. But Beltran's someone who I've spoken about greatly on the topic of being the Mets' next manager. I've talked about him extensively for years on the platform. We're going all the way back to our first year covering the club under Steve Cohen. Okay, Beltran's someone that I've always longed for. I always thought would be a logical fit for this club. And currently working the Mets front office, I think he would be a logical fit, either A, as Mets manager, or B, as Mets hitting coach, if he's willing to accept that lesser position, for Alex Cora, his former teammate with the New York Mets going back to the 2000s, and his former coach-player dynamic and friendship going back to their cheating scandal times together in Houston, back when Cora was the bench coach for AJ Hinch, and Beltran was helping them win a World Series. Okay. There's a lot of connections there. And add in the fact that obviously they're both of Puerto Rican descent. There's also that connection as well when you think of the WBC, among other things. There's a lot of connections between Cora and Beltran. And my dream scenario, I've stated this on the New York Post, I'll state this here. My dream scenario as a Mets fan and talking head is to see a world where Carlos Beltran is hired as Mets hitting coach. Alex Cora is our actual manager. And let me correct myself. Beltran doesn't need to be the hitting coach. He can be bench coach. Bench coach makes most sense because he'll have the most say and dictation outside of obviously the manager himself. Okay. That's what I would like a lot. If that does not happen, however, I'll most certainly be content with Beltran as a first-time manager being the Mets' next guy at the helm. Because when we think of first-time managers, I don't want a Carlos Mendoza type. I don't want a guy that's a first-time manager but has been around the league, a respected bench coach. We've been here, we've done that. That shit didn't work out. If we're going to go first-time manager again, it needs to be someone that has the experience from a player point of view that'll ring true in this Mets clubhouse and help actually resonate well with players. And Beltran, while he and Mendoza both played the game of baseball at the professional level, no one thinks of Carlos Mendoza as a baseball player. Everyone thinks of Carlos Beltran as a baseball player. There's almost like there's a reason why he's going into the Hall as a New York Met literally this month or so. So having said that, everybody, Carlos looks like he will continue to be the leading candidate. We'll expand on him in further content tomorrow, as he is someone who I most certainly would love to see as the Mets manager. It'll be like 6-7 years later than what we initially were thinking under Bernie Van Wagenen, but hey, it's not like the Mets have had all that much success since then. Maybe this time a marination in the front office, working in the Team Puerto Rico coaching staff over the years for the WBC, among all the other things that he's found himself involved in, may bode him well better now than ever to handle this kind of position because he understands his market and he also understands that his resume is on the line. You know, that's something to bear in mind with a guy like Beltran or Albert Pujols. You know, Albert doesn't have the ties to New York, but he has the ties to just an amazing player. If Pujols comes in as the Mets' next manager per se, because we know he wants a job as well, and he doesn't perform well, it's not going to be a good look. No one's going to fault him for how great of a player he was, but it won't have that same look. Whereas if Beltran, if he doesn't perform in New York, it's kind of a tough look because he's wooed back Mets fans who have gone over Waino, 06, curveball. You know what I mean? Like, if Beltran comes in as manager and doesn't perform, that's where it can be a problem, obviously. But if he comes in and does perform and handles this market in stride like he has before as a player, both with the Mets and the Yankees alike, that could be such a needle mover for this club to finally get a sense of direction, motivation, confidence, and more than anything else, part of my French kiddos, we're going to say an F-bomb for a second. 3, 2, 1, I'll say it. 3, 2, 1. Some fucking accountability. Like, that would be great. You know, I want to know what that is. Being a Mets fan, they don't know if it smacked them across the face for the past 2.5 effing years, okay? So I'm looking forward to when the Mets finally have their hand out of their derriere, and actually, or head, rather, up their derriere, and actually figure out, you know what, who's best for this clubhouse culture, who's best for what roster we currently have constructed. And it might not be Carlos Beltran, but there's a lot of reasons to be why it can, should, and most certainly will be Carlos Beltran. So Mets fans, having said that, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. Let me know all your thoughts in the live chat in the comments down below. For everyone watching on replay, your biggest takeaways from the Mets taking this game against the Atlanta Braves, keeping their series alive. I think they're salvaging it, though, because this has not been an ideal series, nonetheless, against the Atlanta Braves. And about Carlos Beltran, the latest reporting indicating that he looks like the early front runner, the top candidate, the favorite, if you will, to be the Mets manager for 2027. Let me know if you guys are for or against Carlos as Mets next manager in the live chat in the comments down below. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button on your way in and on your way out. I greatly appreciate it. And again, I hope you guys all have a tremendous rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you find yourself watching this. Thank you guys again. I'll see you all manana. Until then, have a great one. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets.